Hello everyone. Welcome you today's class that is Talend Interview Questions. So what we are trying to do in this class is to give you an insight on how is talent doing in market, and we will get you through some general questions like we have got a lot of feedback from most of our followers to provide you a video tutorial for interview questions. So in that way, in the second part of this video, we'll be dealing with the general questions, and then slowly I'll take you to data integration, simple questions, and then complex questions. And once you're comfortable in that, you try to understand. I'll also give you the understanding, a background of that question, so that you can, it resides in your mind for a longer time. So you have the answer with reason. And then we'll move on to big data questions. And interesting part here is I'm just trying to get somebody like one of the attendees. So I'll involve them surprisingly, and let's see how they react. Like how you people will go without any preparation to interview. How will be your thought process? How can you manage that situation? Even that we are trying to do a mock in this video. Hope it will be interesting. Let's get into that. So let us first understand how is talent doing in market. So most of you, before you are changing your domain or your line of learning in career, you would like to understand how it is doing in market right now and how far it can travel. That will be your first question in the mind. So we thought we will give you an answer for that here. So Talend is a software integration vendor and has a market share about 19.3%, right? So the company provides the software and it provides services for whatever you name, like big data, cloud storage, data integration, MDM, that is data management, master data management, data quality, and they have come up with very new innovation, like trying to avoid errors coming from the source itself. They have a tool called data preparation, and they have enterprise application integration. So a number of softwares has been provided by Talend vendor. So if you can observe in the slide, so Talend data integration has a greater share, and Talend 19.26% over there, and overall data integrator, that is Oracle DI, so that is having around 9.84%, and Golden Gate again from Oracle, it's holding around 8.51%, and IBM InfoSphere and Data Stage, that is Data Stage software, is holding 7.91. And most of the projects, if you are already in the ETL field, you would have observed a great number of increase in ETL projects. It's migration projects. So just want Informatica to Talend, Data Stage to Talend, like that you would have observed many projects coming in. So that's how it is growing in market. So overall, from this slide, what we can understand is Talend is growing and it is holding the market position in very good position, and then it is improving, right? So hope this clears your doubt about how is it doing in market. And then the next question will be like how many companies are using this, and how is the trend, in which all domains they are using. So of course it's an ETL tool. That's why the major share is on computer software companies. That is, close to 1,300 odd companies are already using it in computer software section. And the information technology, close to 1,000, that is 958. And the staffing and recruitment, close to 300. Likewise, for all other domains, it's doing good and it is growing. So wherever you are, in whichever domain your talent is entering over there, and it is going to grow, right? So this is current talent in market with respect to the distribution of companies. Okay. So once you know it has entered all the domains, and a talent can do better in data management in all the domains. So what is the talent job trend? So these are all, you can see the source is from itjobs watch.co. So from 2009 till 17, it's growing, and you can see some ups and downs here also, but it's always been a healthy growth, and there are good, whichever quarter you go on, you'll always be having a vacancy for talent, and salary has been, whenever there is a good tool coming up, a new tool coming up, you'll find some ups and downs over here. But then overall, as a talent salary trend, it is growing and it is at very good rate. Okay, so this is about your job vacancy and the salary trend. So having this background, like whoever are looking to change your domain, or your line of learning to Talend, and most of you are trying to find job and then learn over it by having training, right? So most of you have already seen the previous videos. I have received comments like when they have joined the training. When I see the comments like seeing the videos, they have joined the training. We just finished one of the training batch, and they were all of them were able to answer close to 80% to 90% of all these questions. So let us also get into the Talend interview question, that is multiple choice questions. I'll tell you what are the different kinds of questions we are dealing with today. So first we'll go with multiple choice questions, which is very important for getting Talend certification. And then what are the general interview questions, which are topics they'll be asking you more questions on, which are the hot components they'll be looking for deep understanding, all this stuff. And then specific to data integration, what all questions will come up. And then specific to big data, what all questions can come up, right? So let us first start with multiple choice questions. So before I go on shooting the questions, let me try to get in one of the attendee, so who can I interact with asking questions, and I'll just tell her to join. Let's see how does she react, or let us ask few easy questions first. Let her settle down and let's see how her thought process will be. Okay, so let me add her. Okay, I'm adding her. Hi Swati.
Hi, Shashidhar.
Yeah, hi Swati. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
So I just wanted you to, I added you to this webinar for a small help. Would you be able to do me that favor?
Yeah, surely.
Yeah, right. But I know it's just a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe you would have not prepared, but I just wanted to answer a few of the questions which I have made for evaluate you or all the people who are there in the training.
Okay.
So will that be fine? Will you try to answer?
Try my level best to answer these questions.
Yeah, that's the spirit. I thought you'll be scared or something like that, but then good. Okay, so maybe you're able to see my screen I have just shared with you as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you go. So first question, pretty simple so that you can calm down and you think with an open mind or calm mind, right? So in Talent Studio, where you find the components needed to create a job. So the options for you are whether it's in repository or whether you can find your components in run view or in designer workspace or in palette.
I think the answer is pretty much simple. I'll go with the palette because once we activate our job, we can find all our components in the palette itself.
Okay. So is there any other ways you can get the components into workspace?
Either we can just type in our workspace the name of the component, or either we can drag and drop from the palette.
Yeah, then don't you think even designer workspace is answer?
Yeah, that's also correct. But generally, all the components are listed down in the palette itself. So I think palette will be the answer.
Yeah, that's very good of coming to, you got to a conclusion because your question is where do you find the components? So there's specific place where do you find that is palette. That's what you're trying to tell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see whether it's right or wrong. Yes, it is palette. So good, Swati. Okay, so good. That was pretty simple as you said. So let's move on. Let's increase the complexity. In the component view, where can you change the name of the component? Though the question, it sounds simple. Sometimes we don't remember exactly which tab or which option does we have to use for that. So do you know this? So where do you change the name of the component? Whether it's in basic setting, advanced settings, documentation tab, or view tab?
I think it's the view tab when we go and when we click on the component and go to the view tab, and there we can find the option to change the name. I remember this telling you in the class.
Oh, that's great. So yeah, remember that because usually I make it a point because usually we go double click on the name and we change it in the designer itself. We'll never come to the component and go to the exact place where we have to change that. So most of us will not remember this, but then you have paid attention in the class and you remember it. So let us see whether your answer is right or wrong. So obviously it's right. So it's the view tab where we have to go and change the component name, right? So this also was
Yeah.
quite simple, but then only if you had paid attention. That's good, Swati. So let's move on to the next question. So this is something to HDFS, okay? So HDFS components can only be used with big data batch or big data streaming jobs. Whether it's true or false. You can read it once more. The HDFS components. okay, whether they can be only used with big data batch or data streaming.
I think it's true.
Okay. So of course, for big data components, we have downloaded the different software, and only there, that is big data version, and then only there we can find these components, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, is that your thought process, or why did you come to a conclusion whether it is true?
I think HDFS is a technology which is used for big data. So I think it's true.
Okay. So with that thought process, let us see what is the answer. Oops, you lost this time. So I'll tell
Mhm.
you why is it false. Okay. See, whenever you develop ETL job, it's just that we're using that components. Okay. So even my intention is not for big data batch or streaming jobs. If I'm not giving those configurations or it is not intended for that use, even then the components are available. Even then I can read or write from HDFS components, right? So you're getting the point over there. So you take the big data input component, you read the data and you just print it. Okay. That job may not be the data batch or may not be the streaming job, but still it works, right?
Yeah.
That's why it
Okay.
is false. So we can use it for all purposes, not only for the batch or streaming purpose. Okay. So remember this.
Yeah.
So now
Okay.
when you answer something wrong and you got that answer, the reason for that answer, you remember it for more time, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, let's move on. Let's be a little bit fast now on. So the next question is, in which perspective of Talent Studio? So most of us will not know where the perspective option is available in Talent, and analysis on Hive table content can be executed. So there are different
Okay.
perspectives, right? Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
I think this is profiling because,
Yes,
within that perspective, we can easily analyze the hype tables.
exactly.
Yeah, I remember this thing.
So in the class, we were, try to show that, right? For the component design, we have a different perspective. For, for profiling, we have different perspective. And where we create the jobs are integration perspective, which is the second option.
Yeah.
So where we create the jobs is in the integration perspective. But then the question was on the analysis of it,
And
which you told profiling. Let's see whether it is right or wrong. So it is right. Good thought process and the right answer. So let's move on. So what does an asterisk mark next to the job name signify in the design workspace? So you'll have that star symbol, right, whenever you're working on it. So for what reason it does pop up? So whether it's an active job, whether the job contains unsaved changes, or the job is currently running, or the job contains errors.
this is option B. The job contains unsaved changes. Whenever we make the changes in our job, at that time that asterisk appears. If in case we don't save it before execution.
Yeah, that's the right answer, and the reason also is the right. So let's see, for just for confirmation purpose, yes, it is the right answer. So obviously, an active job doesn't have any asterisk mark, and whenever it is running, the job window shows the logs, and it does not reflect anything in the repository window, and any errors would show up in the designer or in the log window. So the right answer will be the unsaved changes. Good, let's move on. So a little bit of complexity increase now. Suppose you have designed a big data batch using MapReduce framework. So we have done this, right? The last part of our training. So now you want to
Yeah.
execute it on the cluster using MapReduce. So which configurations are mandatory in the Hadoop configuration tab of the run view? So maybe you would have you are visualizing it, right? Whenever you are designing, what all options will you give? So in big data section, so what are the options are mandatory is what I'm asking. So your options are name node, data node, resource manager, and job tracker.
I think among all these, name node is the mandatory one. I'm a little bit confused about job tracker, but I think I will go with the name node.
Okay. So yeah, fine. So you have given me the final answer. So let us see whether it is right or wrong, and then I'll give you an explanation of it. Okay.
Okay.
So name node and job tracker. So I understand
Okay.
maybe you were in the, understanding that you have to give me only one answer out of this four. Maybe you would have asked me, but then it's quite tricky one. This is how, even in your certification examination, there'll be few questions like this where the answer will be more than one. So if you remember, name node is the mandatory one, of course. We have repeated many times in the class. But then in the HDFS batch thing, whenever we are, if we are having different nodes and all those stuff. Obviously, one more mandatory option or attribute we used to fill in is the job tracker, right? So these two are the mandatory things.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you go back and check, right?
Yeah, I need to.
Okay, so now you know that name node and job tracker both are mandatory, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. So how to find configuration error message for a component? So whether you right click on some component and tell show problems, you just hover over the error symbol in the designer view, or you open the error view, or you open the jobs view.
I think this one is also like we can just go and hover over that exclamation mark and it will show us in the designer view itself. So I think B is the correct option.
Yeah. So of course you have eliminated all other options and you know that whenever you hover over that symbol you are able to see that error message. So let us see. Yeah, this is the right answer. Good one. So let's move on. What is the process of joining two input columns? Okay. Pay attention, like two input columns inside the Tmap I'm talking about. So in the Tmap configuration window, once you double click and go inside, right? And there you want to join two input columns. In that case, what is your actions or steps? Whether will you drag a column from the main input table to a column in another input table, or you right click on one column in the input table and select join, or you select two columns in the two distinct input tables. Right click and then select join, or selecting two columns in two distinct input tables, dragging them to the output table.
I think option A will be the correct answer.
Mhm.
Like once we are inside the configuration window, then from the input tables we have to drag the columns and then drop it in the output table. So I think A is the correct answer.
Okay, that's good. Let's check whether it is right or wrong. And you are right as usual. Yeah, every time we drag the column to the other output section. So that's the right answer. So let's move on for the next question. So to import a file from FTP, which of the following are mandatory components? Whether it is TFTP connection and TFTP put, TFTP connection, TFTP file list, and then TFTP get, TFTP connection and TFTP get, TFTP connection, TFTP exists, and TFTP get. Maybe here also you might have a little bit of confusion. So go through each of the options and which is the nearest match for the question, you can tell me.
Okay. First component we need is TFTP connection. Okay, that is a mandatory thing. Apart from that, we can't like establish the connection itself.
Yeah, right.
Then once we have established the connection, we need to fetch a file. So for fetching the file, we need get. So first is anyways, it's not the option. Second, okay, if we are talking about mandatory things, then I don't think T file list is necessary.
Right.
And T file exist is used to check like whether a file is exist or not. So I think TFTP connection and TFTP get will be the mandatory one. Like if we
Yeah.
know the name of the file.
That's great. So that's obviously it will be the right answer. But then I'll ask you another question. So if you go by, suppose if I say using these components, if you develop a job and you never want that job to fail, if that is your question, will you change your options now?
Like
Like
in
what I'm
case if
trying to tell is, yeah, suppose you have the connection and you have the get, it will be executed properly. I agree. So if that file which you're looking for is not available, so then it would fail, right? For the option
yeah,
which you have chosen. So if you want to develop a job which will never fail for any condition, out of this options, which one would you choose?
I think then we can go with the fourth option. Like first we will check whether that file exists or not. And if it exists, then we will go and fetch it. So at that scenario, I think option D will be correct.
That's perfect. So let's come back to the a question which we were having previously, and you have answered it as option three, and that is perfectly right. And for the second question, also, whatever you answered is right. That's really good. So let's move on to the 10th question. So suppose you have three jobs, okay? Now again, your complexity is increasing. So till now we have done really good. So if you are having three jobs, one and two, the first and second jobs are parallelly executed, and then the job 3 should execute once job 1 and 2 has finished their execution. Okay, which of the following components are used to set up this flow? right? Quite simple. 1 and 2, I want it in parallel. Once they have completed, I want to start job number 3. So you
Okay.
use T unite, T post job, T run job, or T parallel.
Okay, so the first part of the question is like to execute the jobs parallelly, I think T parallelize component will be used. And then after that, once we finish our execution of first and second, after that, I think either T run job or T post job. I am confused between these two options. So I think I will go with T run job. T parallelize and T run job should be the answers.
Okay. According to your thought process, yes, you have arrived at two options now, right? T parallelize and T run job, right?
Yeah,
Okay, let's see. So the answer is T parallelize and T post job. But then whatever answer you gave is also not wrong. But then there will be some questions like this in even in your certification program. But then one or two combinations also is correct. But then why we have to choose this T parallelize and T post job for this question is, so if you observe the question, I'm not telling that you have to go to another job and execute it, right? When two jobs are executed parallelly, even with on sub job okay for the third job will give me the solution for the question. But then if I use T parallelize for the first two jobs, and by using just T post job without any connection, but if you use T run job, you need a connection for that, right, to control the flow. Otherwise all three will run in parallel. You're getting the point?
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah, correct.
without having that connection, if you want to control the flow, T parallelize is anyhow it is taking care of job 1 and job 2, and post job will wait till the parallelization two jobs is executed. So in that way we can give the solution for this using T post job, right? It was quite tricky.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
yes.
just have to give a
Uh,
different thought process to understand this.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and again, we have
Okay.
put a note
Hmm.
over there that T parallelized component is only available in the enterprise version. So these things,
Enterprise.
yeah, we always discuss in our class, like what is available in open source and how we can achieve best, all those stuff. Hope you remember all those things, right? Okay, we'll move on. So, 11th question, for a T file input delimited component, what is the default field separator? So whether it is semicolon, pipe, comma, or a colon.
I think this is comma. Whenever I used to forget specifying the separator in the output file, it will generally give me the comma. So, comma is the right answer.
Exactly.
Option C.
Okay. So it is the right answer, and again, it was quite straightforward. So let's move on to next question. So while saving the changes to Tmap configurations, so this one in many of the examples we have seen. So whenever we change, okay, anything, sometimes Talend asks you for confirmation to propagate the changes in Tmap, right? So every time when you change the structure of a source which is connected or in the target, if you are adding a new column or something like that, it will ask you for this. You remember, right? Do you want to
Yeah.
propagate the changes? So why does it happen? What is the exact reason? Because it will not pop up that for everything, every any changes we do it in Tmap. So what is that specific change which will pop up this message? So the first option is because your changes affect the output schema and the source component should have matching schema. So second one is because your changes affect the output schema and the target component should have the matching schema. Third one is because your changes affect an input schema and the related source component should have matching schema. And the last one is because your changes have not yet been saved.
Okay. Fourth option is not valid.
Yeah,
Then coming to first, because changes affect the output schema and the. Okay. No, not this. Not. Then because changes. I think B. B. Yeah, because whenever we change the schema of our input data to reflect it in our output, then only we propagate the changes.
exactly. See, Tmap itself, like we join two sources which are different, structure, and we take up a few columns from source one, few columns from source two, and we create a different schema. So source will never affect that process. Only the output schema in the Tmap and the target schema. Only those matters, and that is what you have answered as well. So that's the right answer. So because your changes affect the output schema and the target component should be in the matching schema, right? Good
Mm,
thought process.
yeah.
So the next question is in Talend, how do you add a shape into a business model. So we have covered most of the cases in repository, palette, and designer, and now we are coming to business model. So do you remember those? So how do you do that? So click and place it from the palette, drag it from the repository, click and quick access toolbar, drag and drop it from the palette.
I think this is option 4, drag and drop it from the palette, similar to the components, how we used to do with the components.
Exactly. So that's why Talend is very user friendly. Whatever you take, whether it is business model, repository, or the way of executing it will be similar or very easy. So that's the
Yeah.
option. Drag and drop it from the palette. So let's move on to next question. How do you create a row link between two components? So most of us would, let's go into the options. Then you'll understand the, misconceptions. So first one is drag the target component onto the source component. Right click the source component and then click on the target component. Drag the source component onto the target component and then right click the source component, click the row followed by the row type and then the target component.
Yeah. So drag, the first option is not correct. Second one is also not correct. Third one is also, I think fourth one. Right. When we right click, we get the options row, trigger, and on component okay and all. And then
Exactly.
after that, we go for the main and we take it to the target component. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the fourth option will be the correct one.
perfect. Because your question was very clear that row link. So I was stressing on the
Mm.
different row types and trigger types, right? So the question was only related to the row type. That's where the last option, where they have described more about the steps in the row, is the right one. That is what you're thinking. And that is the right answer. Good one.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So Talend Open Studio generates the job documentation. This is one of the unique feature in Talend. So job documentation, we had discussed this. I hope you give the right answer. Which format does it generate the job documentation? Whether it is HTML, whether it is text, whether it is CSV or XML.
I know this answer. This is HTML.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm pretty much sure because in our repository itself, there is an option to like generate the HTML documentation. So
exactly.
HTML is the
The
answer.
option itself says generate the HTML document. That's why we remember. And most of us get confused. Like all the underlying storage of the talent is in XML format, but then this is a specific option of documentation which generates in HTML. So your answer is right. It is HTML. So the next question is: can we directly change the generated code in Talend? True or false?
I think we can change the code. I
Yeah,
think option will be true.
yeah, because you have written some routines and all, right? In the classes,
Yeah,
we were returning the values and you used to go change the code or add something in that code, right?
yeah.
But then, can you read the question again and think whether your whatever your thought process is right or wrong? So the question is, can you
Um,
directly change the generated code in the Talend?
okay, then it's false. Maybe yeah, because the customized code that we change, generated code that Talent generates by default, we can't change that. Yeah, correct. So it will be
Exactly.
false.
Yeah, the first thing which comes to our mind when this question is asked in interview is yes, I do write code and I embedded that code in the talent and I have changed it many times. So we'll be in that thought process. But then the question is the in the designer window, when we have the designer window and the code window, whenever we get the error, we go into code window and we see that right where exactly the error is. So can we edit
Yeah,
that code is the question. So obviously you have yes, initially you thought in a different way but then later you realized it, so you're giving the answer as false, and that is right. So whatever talent generates after our creation of the designing of ETL, that we cannot edit. Good.
correct.
Let's move on to the
Yeah.
next question. So this is also quite confusing and also simple for few of you who know it. So what is the default date pattern in Talent Open Studio?
Okay, Talend Open Studio generally follows the most regular format that is DDMMYY. So I will go with this because we have solved many questions based on
Yeah,
like
date
date of birth and
conversions.
all those stuff. Yeah,
Exactly. So the option 2 DDMMYY is the right answer. Good one. So we'll move on. So MDM stands for what? Metadata management, mobile device management, master data management, or mock data management?
it's master data management.
Obviously, it's one of the product of Talend which we would have discussed in the very first class. So MDM stands for master data management. It's the right answer. Good one. So in order to encapsulate and pass the collected log data to the output. So this was one where we discussed a lot in error handling classes. So I hope you remember this. So tell me, which are the components that must be used along with T-log catcher, whether it is T1, whether it is T-die, T-start catcher, or T-assert catcher.
Okay, to encapsulate and pass the collected log, I think T1 is necessary.
Yep.
So I think, but when we use T-die, I think T-die will like make the job exit. So I think only T1 is required, and T-stat catcher and exit catcher is no. These are used for different purposes. So I think T1 is necessary. So T1, I
Okay.
think option A is the correct answer.
Okay, let's see that. So the answer is T1 and also T-die. But whatever you said is absolutely right. T-die will make your job exit or it will abort your job. But then the steps how T-die works is whenever you have a org component error and you connect it to T-die, there also you're giving some message, right? Like invalid data type encountered or something like that, or file not exist, whichever you require. So even after receiving that, TDI will make sure whether the T-log catcher has catched the message thrown by TDI. Once it is sure that T-log catcher has caught the message, then only it will abort the job. So both T1 and TDI will make sure that the logs has been catched by T-log catcher and then they will do their action. So both of them are doing that encapsulation and passing the collected log data to the question which is asked. Both of them satisfies the need for this. Okay, so this is how
Okay.
TDI works. So whatever you said is correct, but then you should understand the detail how it will work. So first step, it will give the logs, make sure it is caught, and then it will abort it. Okay, so
Okay.
let's move on.
Okay. Okay.
So which component used to read data line by line from an input flow and store the data entries into the iterative global variables? I think this one is quite simple for you. Whether it is T iterate to flow, T file list, T flow to iterate, T loop.
It's a little bit confusing between T iterate to flow and T flow to iterate, but I think I will go with option C, T flow to iterate,
Yes. Okay.
because
Right. So
because
since yeah, in the
we
question, if you can see the read data line by line is there. So your input
we
should be line by line, right? So yeah,
yeah,
with
so
that
the flow
thought
should be there
process,
before we iterate it.
exactly.
So
So you
that's
got the
why I
point. So
yeah
let's see whether it is right or wrong. Yes, it is the right option. Good one. So this is how we, think and eliminate the other options or get them know whether they do that work or in the question itself we'll have some hint for the answer, right? So let's move
yeah
on. So T memorize rows belong to which component family in Talend? So this is one of the most difficult questions in certification. We won't actually remember where exactly they belong to. So let's see whether you remember. So T memorize rows belongs to miscellaneous, orchestration, internet, or file.
I'm confused between option A and option B.
Of course.
So
So file, it is not
maybe
related to file. It's
orchestration.
not related to internet. Obviously, it should be the first and second one.
Yeah, but again, when we try to eliminate, orchestration is something which we use for the processing of data, right? Like
Exactly. Yeah.
repetition and all those. So I think miscellaneous will be the correct option.
Okay, let us check.
So I'll go with option
Yeah,
A.
it is the right answer. It comes under miscellaneous and very good way of eliminating the other options. Good one. So let's move on. So dash is a powerful input component which holds the ability to replace a number of other components of the file family. It's only related to the file family, right? The first option is the T file input LDIF, T file input regular expression, T file input Excel, T file input JSON.
Okay. So Excel is used for CSV and Excel sheets. JSON is used for the JSON files. LDIF and regex, regular expressions and LDIF. I think LDIF will be the answer.
Okay, so let's see what is the answer. So it is T file input regular expression. I'll tell you why. And your thought process of LDIF maybe would have thought, okay, LDIF would help me in replacing the other components in the file family. But then in T file input regular expression, we can read the stream. We can only extract the matcher string in the regular expression. So it does multiple options and multiple features are available in that. So that's how it will, it is able to replace the number of other components in the file family. So the close match was T
Okay.
file input regular expression, right? So let's go to next question. Which component do you need in order to prevent an unwanted commit in MySQL database? So this is quite simple, I believe. So the options are MySQL rollback, MySQL commit, MySQL lookup input, MySQL row.
Yeah, actually, answer is pretty much
Mhm.
simple. So option A will be the answer. So in order to like undo some, we use MySQL rollback component. So option A is the correct answer.
Exactly. So that's the right answer. It's MySQL rollback. So another question related to database. A database connection defined in repository, okay, the metadata, which can be reused in any job within the project, true or false?
Yeah, it's true. Like whatever we have stored in our repository, we can use it throughout our project. Any job or any sub job, anything can use that particular whatever it is stored in the repository.
That's right. So it's a right answer. That's why we call it metadata. Right? Across project, we can use that connection. So let's do something with pig. So the question is using which component you can integrate personalized code like routines. So personalized code written in pig in the Talend program. Whether you can use it, by using TPIG cross, TPIG map, TPIG distinct, TPIG code.
From the question itself, we can
Yeah,
deduct that it's like TPEG code. So
perfect.
option D.
Yeah, so because all other options are, it itself is telling what is the functionality of it. So TPIC code is
Yeah.
the right answer. So that's how the components are named in Talend. It is psychologically designed. So whatever function you want, you can just type in that function in Talend. You get a component for that. So that is one of the another user-friendly feature of Talend. So next question is on Kafka. So T Kafka output component receives message serialized into which data type? We have done this, right? So we make sure before going
Yeah.
into the output, we do some step, right? So whether it is a byte or byte array, string array or integer.
It's option B, byte array.
That's
That's the specialty of Kafka.
perfect. So we particularly take a Java component and whatever we want to put it into Kafka, we build an array of it, byte array of it, right? So that step everybody
Yeah.
remembers that. So that's straightforward answer and it is right. So the next question is which of the two component families do HDFS properties component belong to? So now this is a tricky question. So they fall into more
Yeah.
than one bucket. So which are those for THDFS properties? Whether it is big data and miscellaneous, orchestration and big data, file and big data and internet.
Okay. For HDFS, big data is mandatory. So big data is there in all the options.
Yeah,
So miscellaneous, no, miscellaneous won't be the option because we are talking about properties. Maybe,
exactly. And again, it's there in the question. If you expand HDFS, you'll get the answer. So it is Hadoop
okay, the
distributed file system.
file system. Yeah, correct. So that's why I will go with option C, file and big data.
Perfect. So that's why they are very straightforwardly given it as the HDFS properties. So sometimes we will not think in that verge of answering the question that HDFS is nothing but Hadoop distribution file system. So obviously it should fall
Yeah,
under file category as well.
file. Correct.
Yeah, so it is file and big data. So we'll have to be calm, read the question and get understanding of it. Yeah, that was right answer.
Especially in questions like which component families they belong to. These
Exactly.
are like,
That's right. So let's move on. So dash component, that's which component is used to read data from cache memory for high speed data access. So we have used it in number of jobs, so we should be able to answer this. T hash input, T file input LDIF, T HDFS input, T file input XML.
okay, the I know the answer. This is the hash input because we have already performed this in our class. So I remember doing these.
Exactly. So hash input is they read the data and they keep it in RAM memory, and where we have defined in that it will create a hash map file, binary file, and it will refer from that. So that will be very fast, and that's the answer you are given, and which is right. So good one. So let's move on. Which using which component you can calculate the processing time? Okay, how much time it took. So processing time of one or more sub-jobs. So please understand. So using which component you can calculate the processing time of one or more sub-jobs, not jobs, inside a main job. So which one will be able to do that? So whether it is T flow meter, T chronometer stat, T flow meter catcher, T stats catcher.
Okay, flow meter and flow meter catcher are not options. I'm
Mhm.
like pretty much sure about that. But I'm confused about T chronometer stat and T stat catcher. Generally, we use T stat catcher only.
Exactly.
T chronometer. Okay, I'll go with option D. T stat catcher.
Okay. Yeah. Let me check whether it's right or wrong. It is not. It is T chronometer stat. And your answer was absolutely right if I had asked you what is the time taken by the full job, that is main job. That's why in the question it
Okay.
is very clear that it is one or more sub jobs inside the main job, right? So if I have three separate jobs in my, I mean not separate jobs as such T run job, but then three different on sub job okay, on sub job okay, and I have that three flows, then each flow how much time did it took. So in that way actually we cannot only say by using t chronometer stat, actually on each subjob start and end we should also have t chronometer stop also, right? That's why they are confusing you. Since there was no chronometer stop in the option, you might have thought that there is only stat, there is no stop, then how will you calculate the time taken by the subjob? So your answer was logically correct, but then with the available options for one or more subjob, T chronometer start is the nearest match, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so let's move on. T unite component belongs to which of the two families? Again, you got the family question. So whether it is file and processing, miscellaneous and messaging, orchestration and messaging, orchestration and processing.
Okay, T unite processing. Yeah, it belongs to processing. I'm pretty much sure about this. And another one should be unite. T unite. I think option B maybe because
Okay.
file no, miscellaneous no. Yeah, or I think orchest. It's not. Doesn't belongs to messaging. So second and third are like pretty much out. And it doesn't belongs to file. Yeah, it doesn't belongs to file. So I think
Mhm.
option D is the correct orchestration and processing.
Good thought process and it's the right answer. Good. So let's move on. So using T Java Flex, how many parts of Java code can be added in the job? So one, two, three, or four.
I think three,
Yeah, exactly. So when we compare T Java, T Java Row, and T Java Flex, in the Flex we have three different
three
parts of the Java
Java
code:
code. Yeah,
start,
correct.
main, and final. These three are the one which we have to give it in T Java Flex. So obviously that's the right answer. So let's move on. Yes, that was really great, Swati, interacting with you for a surprising mock interview. And according to me, you almost answered 85% of the questions. So obviously, even now, if you give the certification exam, I think you will score more than the required passing percentage as well, and you will really come out with flying colors.
Thank you. I will really increase, and I'm planning to prepare more and appear for the examination.
Yes, surely, and that's why we provide you the a lifetime access for all the videos. So go through whenever you are feeling you're out of touch, and whenever you go through that, you'll again brush up all the things, all the complex things which you have done, and these confusions what was created in few of the questions, you can get clarity of that in our class videos as well. So you can go through that and you prepare for the certification exam.
I'll surely do that.
Okay, thanks a lot for joining for multiple choice questions mock for us in this video. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity and clearing many of my doubts. Thank you.
That's okay. Thanks a lot.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. So now let's start with general interview questions, which will be frequently asked in interviews. We have tried to collect most of the important questions and we have put down here. So let's go on with general interview questions and try to answer them. So the question is, what are the various software and services provided by Talend? So here, basically, what they want to understand is what are the different products as such which are coming out from Talend as a vendor. So what are those different softwares which are available? Which are the areas like whether it can be big data, data integration, data management, cloud storage. They have an MDM, master data management. They also deal with data quality, and recently they have come up with data preparations to avoid the errors coming up in the source itself. And then all enterprise applications, they are available in both open source and enterprise version. So whenever they ask you, they usually expect whether you are only concentrating on data integration from Talend, or you have also spread your knowledge across all the products which are provided by Talend. So how they are used, they are also quite common and user friendly in usage wise. Only you'll have to learn the different components available in their different products, and you can explore them. So basically, with this question, an interviewer will expect you to list down or tell them which these are all available, and at least a big picture of it, what that product does, or what is the unique feature about it, or how does it help to solve the problems in today's data integration world. So answer would be, yeah, the company provides various integration software and services for all these services like big data, cloud storage, as I mentioned, data integration, data management, MDM, and data quality, and also enterprise data preparation, right? So go through in talent.com, we'll have products page. You can go through and read about all the products, download them, try to do a hello world program or something like this, simple program, and then you will be very confident to answer like how does it look or why it is used and what are the component names. You'll be able to answer it, right? So this is all about your various software which are provided by Talend. So let's move on to next question. So why Talend Open Studios, like different Talend Open Studio for data integration, Talend Open Studio for big data? Why are those open studios, that is freeware, why is it so popular? What is the reason? So you can just think of, like, if you're already using, a few of the features which are, very, what to say, very popular, and which has made their products a big hit. One is it's very user friendly, that is everyone knows about it. And then the features about it, like, it is upon Java integratable. Like if you are not able to do anything very, not available in ETL, say for example binary conversion, or mainframe data frames, mainframes data type conversions, just need Java code to be integrated. So it is upon Eclipse. So that is one of the major feature of Talend, where you can integrate your routines, external routines, and you can plug and play with Talend components. That is one thing. And then so what does it does, like it will generate the code and transform it to a Java jar, right? And also it is platform independent. So one download and you get all the binaries, whether you can execute it in Windows, Linux, or Mac OS, doesn't matter. So again, when it is Java, it is platform independent, and of course it is very user friendly, and the design is and no installation configurations, heavy steps are not available. They are very simple. Just go download and set your Java paths and get started with your ETL work. So such simple thing. So you can put down all these whatever you feel it is very useful, or which is the good feature. Learning curve is very very easy or very steep. So there it goes. An open source project that is based on Eclipse SAP, supports ETL oriented implementations, acts as a code generator, and the underlying programs are in Java, and it is user friendly GUI. So these are the major thing. Not only this, but then there are many other features which has made it so popular, but that is too technical. But then whenever there is an big picture questions like this, you can just tell what are the stand out of the crowd features, like. So these are the very unique features in Talend. So that's all about your why it is so popular, the reasons for it. You can quote these reasons. So moving on to next question. Why should one use Talend instead of any other tool available in market? So this kind of they are just indirectly asking you, you tell me which are the tools which are doing good in market, and compare them with Talend, and tell me what is that good in Talend and which is not available in other tools. Different categories, which all categories, what are all the good features. For example, as we saw in the previous slide, is user friendly. So development and deployment, everything is very easy in Talend, so that anybody can learn and do it very quickly. And one more thing is it's uniform platform, like I told you, routines can be integrated, and you can call an SQL routine easily. design is very simple, and then less expense majorly. Like whenever you are most of the companies, whenever you want to do a POC or something like that, you can use the open source. And then compared to other biggies in market, Talend enterprise version cost is really less, so you can just code that also, though it is not a technical point. This is very important point for us to understand, what is the cost and what is the users, how many users per one license, all those stuff, right? And it is future proof. Like it is Java based, and your all metadatas are stored in XML formats in here. Whatever changes you want to do is very easy, and also it is future proof. And huge community exists for Talend. Maybe you would have already experienced it. So any question you want to get to know, though you're owning a enterprise version or you're just using open source, the community helps you. The response time is very quick. So all these things matters for suggesting a tool for client. So here comes the answer, like faster development and deployment, yeah, uniform platform, as I said, and less expense because the license cost is less, maintainability is less, future proof, and huge community, right? So you can quote all these reasons for why we have to use Talend instead of any other tool in the market. And now comes tool level questions. So they want to understand, though you have worked a lot in Talend, we would not focus much on what is the window name or what options does it provide, what is the hierarchy, which is the highest hierarchy. All the stuff we will give very less importance. But then in certification exams or in project, sometimes they would ask these questions to understand how deep knowledge you have in Talend. So what is project according to a Talend? Basically, it is the highest hierarchy in the Talend. Like you should first create a project and enter into Talend, any of the Talend product, right? So project is the entry point, so it is the highest hierarchy. And then in project we can have business models, jobs, metadata, context variables, routines. All those stuffs are stored under this bundle. So project has all the jobs and all the metadata related to job. So it is the highest hierarchy. So that could be the best and straightforward answer for this. So project is the highest physical structure that can be more technical, and then bundles up and stores all types of business model, jobs, metadata, routines, context variables, and all other features which are available. So most of us will not be able to answer this rightly. So make sure all the windows, all the features and hierarchies are known to you. Okay. So let's move on. So what do you understand by job design in Talend? So you have a designer window. Like these are the few questions in certification exam, which will be, you'll feel like though you're working on Talend for years together, you will not be able to decide among two options which are very close, very similar or something like that. So basically, job is a executable unit, right? Which is anything built using the components, all those stuff. So it is technically what to say, like it is single Java file which will be compiled and given to you as a Java file. So it implements the data flow, like business into code, routines, program, all those stuff. So designer window is where you can drag and drop the components, give solution to your requirements. And once you have dragging and dropping the component, backend Java code will be generated. And ultimately, when you're done with your job, when you compile, it generates a executable code. So all these things happens in the designer window. So that is where they ask you in a different way, like what do you mean by job design, all those stuff. So basically, job is a executable unit, and yeah, technically it's a single Java class. Like it compiles and it gives you executable jar when you build the job, right? So that one, and it implements the data flow by translating the business needs into code, routines, and programs. So need not be it's not like you have to exactly code these answers. The basic understanding of it and how the question can be asked and what the question actually points to. When they say job design, we should speak about all these things. So that's what we wanted to let you know. So let's move on. So what is a component? Again, we all know, one component, performs a piece of function or something like that. And where we can find the components, all the components will be, listed in palette. And whenever we drag and drop the component, it is nothing but a piece of code which is related to that component. It gets added to my design. So that is the one thing. Basically, it does one simple job. Say, for example, if you take T file input delimited as a component, when you drag and drop all the code which is needed to read the file, what is the delimiter, what is the row separator, what is the file name, what is the stream, all those stuffs will be a parameter kind of thing. So it will replace those parameters and it will execute the Java code which is written for reading a file. So basically it's a functional piece which is used for performing single operation in Talend. So it is available in palette, and you can simply drag and drop them. At the backend, it is a part of the code, and Java codes are automatically compiled by Talend when job is saved. So basically, first thing you have to tell is it's a particular function code which we have using as a GUI. So we just give the parameters and we execute the job. So that is component in Talend. So let's move on. So explain various types of connections in Talend. So we'll have whenever we right click on any of the component, we'll have row and trigger in the first options, and then we'll have different types like iterate, link, all the stuff, right? So basically in row we have main, lookup, filter, reject, output, unique. Whenever we take unique components, we'll have unique row and duplicate row. And when it comes to trigger, we'll have on subjob okay, on subjob error, and run if, on component okay, on component error, all those stuff. When it comes to ELT components, we'll have a link. We'll not have the rows, we'll have the link, and iterate to iterate on the data set. So all these things are the connections. It's not like we'll have to answer about database connections or file connections, nothing like that. It is connection which is associated with the Talend options. So connections in Talend define whether the data has to be processed, data output, or logical sequence of a job, where we control the data flow, right? So as I mentioned, row, iterate, trigger, and link, and options related to that like main, lookup, filter, error, rejects, output, unique, duplicates, and on subjob okay, on subjob error, on component okay, on component error. So all these things you can mention it as types of connections, and where it which components, like if you take T file list, only iterate will be available. If you take T file input delimited, all three will be available like main, iterate, and reject. So you can code these examples like which component will have which connections in specific. They'll get to know you have more knowledge on components, right? So they'll understand, okay, he has worked with all the components. He knows for which component what all row types will come, or how it is working. That will be understood, right? So let's move on to next question. So quite common question. Differentiate between on component okay and on subjob okay. So basically, you all know, like after completing one specific, we got to know what is component. So component does one piece of work or one functionality. If that functionality is successful, then it gives you the flow which is connected to the okay. And if you are connecting multiple components on component okay, and the parent component will have on subjob okay and on subjob error. So if all the components are executed successfully which are connected with on component okay, then it's like and condition for all the three components. So let's see what are the technical difference. So belongs to component triggers and belongs to subjob triggers. It's basically technical differentiations. The linked subjob starts executing only when the previous component successfully finishes, and the linked subjob starts executing only when the previous subjob is completed successfully. So on subjob okay, I would have from the parent subjob I would have having 3 to 4 components. All those 4 components should complete the execution. Then only the next subjob will start, which you all know. Like then link can be used with any component. Link can be only be used with the first component of subjob. So this is what you have to the third point is the differentiator of understanding. So you'll have to explain like only the first component which has been connected to the on component okay of the 3 components, only that will be having this subjob okay and subjob error triggers. So this is all about your on component okay and on subjob okay. So why is Talend called a code generator? So as you all know, like in the first slide also I told it is upon built upon Eclipse, and then whenever you drag and drop the component, it is nothing but replacing the code in the backend. So that's how why it is called Talend code generator. You can quote the same reasons. So Talend provides a user-friendly GUI where you can simply drag and drop, and at the backend it generates the code. And that's the main reason. Each component present in the job is divided into 3 parts. Begin, main, and end. Whenever you drag and drop a component, when you go back to code section, you can see that for each component they'll have the 3 sections. So that's why Talend is called a code generator. So next question is, what are the various types of schema supported in Talend? Like it's not like database level schemas. It is like in Talend we have repository schema, we have generic schema, and we have fixed schemas. The deep understanding of these topics like the Talend training provided by Edureka will be dealing with all these topics in detail. But then since this, video is all about the interview questions, we'll only dealing with the, meaning of those schemas. So repository schema is nothing but which you can use across the jobs in a project. So project is the highest hierarchy, right? So in a project, whichever job you want to refer, you can refer it from the repository schema. And general schema is not, tied to any particular source, as it is used as a shared resource across the multiple types and multiple sources. Like same schema can be used for a file, and same can be used for a database. And fixed schema is they are only read-only schemas which will be predefined in some components, like t context load. Key and value will be always be defined. We cannot change that also. And if you t log catcher, t stats catcher, all those will be fixed schemas. You cannot change them, right? So these are the different three schemas, and the question will be quite confusing. You will always point to the schemas of a database or something like that. It is Talend specific, right? So next question is explain routines. So already we know what is routines and why it is needed and how it is integrated in Talend. So they are nothing but reusable code. Like suppose we want to, extract, symbol of the currency while we pass the three-letter code of the currency. So it can be reused anywhere in the project or any job. So you can write that code outside and you can call that code anytime you want. So basically, there'll be two types of routines. One is already predefined system routines, and one is, as I told you as an example, that is user defined. You will have to write that routines. So both routines are available in Talend. So routines are the reusable piece of Java code, and also it can be an SQL snippet or all those stuff. Even those are supported. So using routines, you can write the custom code. So Talend supports system routines and user routines. Both of them are supported. So let's move on. So can you define a schema at runtime in Talend? So this is something that a schema, you cannot define any schema at runtime until and unless it is a dynamic schema in enterprise version option. But whenever these kind of questions comes in, you will have to smartly answer, like saying, are you speaking about dynamic schema in enterprise version, or you want to answer me in a way that how can it be achieved in Open Studio. So that should be your approach. And schemas, it cannot be defined during runtime. The moment the data you are defining in the job, either metadata or the manually you are giving the structure for it, then you'll have to define it before the Talend job is being compiled or run, right? So schema can't be defined during runtime. The schemas define the movement of data. It must be defined while configuring the components, right? But dynamic schema option is available in the enterprise version. So this is how we can answer. So most of the interview will have this mandatory question: what is built in and what is repository? So that's more. I mean, you all know that whenever I'm taking it from the metadata, which is a reusable, properties and schema. So repository or built-in will have two things basically. That is, one is property type, like file name, row separator, and the field separator is a property of that component. Whereas schema will also be there. Schema can be reused with many other components as well, but file properties cannot be reused, right? So you should make these differentiations whenever these questions are asked. What is that which is different in built-in repository? What are the properties involved in those? Then you will be, they'll know that you know the deep understanding of it. So stored locally inside the job is built-in, and stored centrally inside the repository is repository. Can be used only by the local job, can be used globally within any job in the project, can be updated easily within the job. Data is read only within a job. Whenever you change it in any of the repository thing, either it will convert it into built-in, or it will tell change in repository option where you will have to change it, and it will be propagated to many other jobs based on your acceptance. So this is the difference between your built-in and repository, right? So let's move on. What are context variables and why they are used in Talend? So as you all know, context variables are one of the feature in Talend wherein you store the temporary variables, or you store the variables in the parent job, pass it to the child job. Basically, there are different types of context variables as well. Like most of us will not be concentrating on it. We'll have project level context variables, which is applicable for all the jobs. That is embedded context variables. And the second one is repository context variables, which we use inside the repository window. We create the context variables and we use it across the jobs. And we also have external context variables where we load from a file using t context load, right? So all these things you'll have to mention. Most of us will not be knowing the embedded context variable. So user defined parameters, basically context variables. You can use these technical words. So may change their values as the job promotes from development to test and production. If we have such a requirement, we'll go for context. So we can first tell what is the need for context and how it can be handled in Talend. Just by one click of context group, we'll be able to deploy the job in different environments. So we have embedded context variables, repository context variables, and external context variables. So need, what is it meaning of it, and what are the types will be the best answer for context variable questions. So the next question is, can you define a variable that can be accessed from multiple jobs? Yes, of course. What are they pointing to? So these are like twist questions. So actually we can create it. That is like in a routine, whenever you create a static variable, right? It is not like straightforward question in Talend feature, but then it is something related to Java. So let's static is the answer, but then what technically we can answer, we'll see it. So yes, you can do it by declaring a static variable within the routine. So in routine, if you declare any static variable, it can be accessed by multiple jobs. So then you need to add the setter and getter methods, like that whatever variable you are trying to access, you will have to first, if you want to change the value of it, you have to use the set method. And if you want to read the value of what you have already, updated or the previously updated value, you will have to use the getter method. So once done, the variable will be accessible from multiple jobs. So this is something into Java. So this can be, one level up questions to understand how how to embed Java into Talend. So the next question is, what is subjob and how can you pass data from parent job to child job? It is one of the mandatory questions in all the interviews. So usually what happens is there are multiple ways you can pass value from one job to another job. So subjob is nothing but as you know, series of components which is doing some particular function, like say read the file, filter out data, and then filter data, put it to one of the database, and rows which are rejected by filter, put it to an Excel file. So if this is the one subjob which does a meaningful work or a functionality, is called a subjob, which are connected by our triggers and rows. So that is called as a subjob. But the second part of the question is about how do you pass data from parent job to child job, right? So that can be done either from the context variable, or you can write the data to a file and using a T file output delimited. And in the second job, you can read it from that file. So let's see the technicality of this. Okay, it can be a single component or a number of components for which data flow is joined. A job can have at least one subjob. To pass value from parent job to child job, you need to make use of context variables, or you can store it in a file and read it in the next job, right? So let's move on to next question. So define the use of outline view window. Most of us will again, would not have observed much about, outline view. So outline view is nothing but it will show you the code, whatever you are using one component. If you click on that component, so what is the code related to that particular component, we'll be able to see. So outline view in the Talend Open Studio is used to keep track of written values available in the component, like the standard variables which are available for that component. Say for example, we have one of the database component, then how much lines inserted, how much lines updated, how much lines deleted. Those values will be available for you in the standard variables. So this will also include the user defined values configured in tset global component tools. So the next question is, explain Tmap component. So most of the interview questions will start with actually Tmap sometimes. So they'll first try to understand whether you know Tmap functionalities, all the functionalities properly. So name few functions that can perform on it. So this is kind of a general questions, like what you have to answer for which are the Talend features which are very important in Tmap, right? So Tmap component, it belongs to processing family. So family categorization is one more point where you can tell more about Talend. So you can just tell Tmap is in processing family, and then it is used for multiple source. It can be accepted and it can give output to multiple targets. And inside we can have stage variables. We have multiple joins and error capturing mechanisms, and you have different lookup models, join models, and we have temp storage options. All those stuffs which are involved in Tmap, you can quote it down. So as I said, it belongs to processing family, and you can add and remove a column, apply transformation, filter, reject, expression usage, and each column level, field level, you can put the business rules. All those stuffs you can tell about the Tmap. So this is basic question, and most of us will know all the features of this Tmap. So this is also one more standard question. What is difference between Tmap and tjoin? Most of us will start with number of inputs and not availability of the stage variables or all those stuff. So let's see the technicality of it. So it is a powerful component which is handled complicated cases, can only handle the basic joins tjoin. And in Tmap we can accept multiple inputs, whereas in tjoin we have only two inputs can be accepted, and it can have multiple outputs. It can have only two outputs, main and reject, inner join reject. And then supports multiple types of joins, different types of joins, supports only unique join. So supports inner join and left outer join, supports only inner join. So can filter the data using filter expressions and can't do so. So in tjoin we don't have any expression editor or filtering condition. It's only related to the joins. And also they would continuously after this question they would tell how will I join three sources if I have to use tjoin. Then you'll have to answer like first I'll join the two sources, get the output of the tjoin, and to that output and one input I'll use another tjoin. So by using two tjoin components, we'll be able to achieve that requirement. Like if you want to join three sources using tjoin, we'll have to answer like this, right? So what is a scheduler? So all of us know, like after usually when we do Talend jobs, the next step is to schedule them. So obviously we will use either third-party scheduler or Windows scheduler to schedule the job. It's basically to run a job in particular interval, right? So scheduler is a software which selects process from the queue and loads them into the memory for execution. Talend does not provide a built-in scheduler, but then it is for open source. We have scheduling options in Talend Admin Center, that is tag that is only available in the enterprise version, right? So you should answer in the both ways, like it is available in enterprise edition via tag, but in open source we don't have that option. So we'll have to either go for Windows scheduler, or you have to go for some third party scheduler or contab, something like that, right? So this is all about your general interview questions. So most of the generally asked questions which they'll judge you like at least you have worked on the tool, you know all the options. So these questions would make you surely confident to get through the general questions, right? So now we are in the third part of our agenda, that is Talend integration interview questions, which are very specific to only Talend DI. So let's see what are the main questions in data integration interview questions, right? So the first thing in data integration is to describe what is ETL. Most of us are into ETL field. If we are at least trying to get to know what is ETL and what is Talend, all those stuff. So usually we will first tell the abbreviation of it. I mean, we would expand this abbreviation, saying that it stands for extract, transform, and load. So basically, don't start with that. That does not sound matured. So we just directly start with explanation of what is the process all about. So we have in today's world we have data coming from different sources, different heterogeneous sources. One client may give the data in Excel, another one can give it in database, another one will tell you take it from my API via my database, something like that. So we have difference in schemas, we have different in formats of the file. So we need to extract the data from heterogeneous sources. So that's why E in ETL stands for that extraction of the data from heterogeneous sources. And then we will have the business rules to apply on it, and we'll have to transform the data which we have read, and then ultimately when it is fit for purpose, we'll have to load it into the target database in the way it is expected. So this would make them understand that you know the situation and why the need of ETL was needed, and then the definition. So ETL refers to extract, transform, and load, and you know what those terms mean, right? So next question immediately after that, usually most of the interviewer will ask is differentiate between the ETL and ELT. So basically we know that again we will tell it is extract, transform, and load, and this is extract, load, and transform. But then you will have to make sure we will differentiate them. See, where do we use ETL is when we use the use case of what we are executing can be best delivered or optimizedly done by using the capability of ETL engine, then we would go for ETL. But the things or the use case which we are trying to deliver using ELT is by using the capability of the database. We'll first load the data, and using the capability of the database engine, we will make it faster or optimize. In such cases, we go for ELT. So make sure you put down the first important point and then answer this. Like data is extracted first and then transformed before it is loaded. So that is what it means. And then in ELT, it is data is extracted, then it is loaded to the target system, and then it is further transformed. So in ETL, it is increase in size of data, processing slows, entire ETL process need to wait till transformation is over. But in ELT, processing is not dependent on the size of the data. It is loaded, but then only it is transformed using the capability of the database engine. And ETL is very easy to implement, and ELT needs deep knowledge of the tools. That's why I said like use case dependent. You should first know what you are doing, what kind of data you are handling, and what kind of transformations you are doing, and whether it is costly in ETL engine or it is costly in database engine. And then you'll have to take the decision on it. So the ETL does not provide the data lake support, and ELT provides the data lake support. And ETL supports the relation data, and ELT supports unstructured data as well, right? So we can put down all these major points, and that would really do good for that question. So the next question is, can we use ASCII or binary transform mode in SFTP connection? Like most of us will first, we have to put down what is FTP and what is SFTP and what does S stands for. I mean, why security is needed, all those stuff. And then technically we can tell, see, no, the transfer modes cannot be used in SFTP connection. So SFTP does not support any kind of transfer modes as it is an extension to SSH and assumes an underlying secure channel. So that is why, the transfer modes, cannot be kept as SFTP connections. So this is one, out of box question. Like we thought most of the interviewers are asking this, so we have included this. So the next question is, how do you schedule a job in Talend? So again, as I said, if it is in enterprise version, it is already there. Otherwise, you'll have to go for Windows Scheduler or cron tab in Linux, or you can go for a third party tool like, Autosys or UC4. So in order to schedule a job in Talend, first you need to export the job as a standalone program, like build the job and get the executables. And that executable is what you are going to schedule, right? So Windows Scheduler, Linux or cron can do this job for you. So this can be also scheduling, always one question you can surely expect. So there's also like a DI component related question, like explain the purpose of T denormalize sorted row. So most of us we know what is denormalization sorted row. The name itself suggests what does the component help us to do. So it denormalizes the data, it sorts the data and provide me as an output. So T denormalize sorted row belongs to processing family. Again, naming the family is one plus point, and it helps in synthesizing the sorted input flow in order to save memory. It combines all the sorted rows in the group where the distinct values are joined with item separators. So you just go to talend.com, get to know about these very rare components which are very capable. So that kind of components will be usually asked in interviews, so that you can answer those rare components as well, because most of us will not be using these components regularly. So next question is, differentiate between insert or update or insert. So in any of the database components, like say for example MySQL, you will have the action on data option, wherein you will have all these option: insert or update or insert. So basically, how do you choose this is what first they want to understand. Like I can tell it will first insert and then update, and it will first update and then insert. So that will not be the answer which interviewer will be expecting. You'll have to answer in a way like, see, these options are provided for some reason, some optimization reason. Suppose if I know the data coming in, which I'm going to put it in the database, has most of the new rows than the existing rows, then number of inserts will be more and update will be less. So in that case, I will go for insert or update. In the other case, I'll go for update or insert, so that I save time. It is optimized. So that is the way you should be able to answer this question. So Talend first tries to insert a record, but the record is matching, then it will update it. So the same way for the other. So this is one of the important question which will be asked. So try to get more information on this component and also other options available in action on data. So explain the use of T context load, as this is somewhere related to the one question which we asked. What are the different types of context variables wherein we have external context, right? So now how do we load the external context into Talend? So we'll have to use the T context load, and also T context load component has fixed schema, where we had one more question previously. What are the different kind of schema? Repository, metadata, and fixed schema. Again, T context load comes under fixed schema. So T context load belong to miscellaneous family, helps in modifying the values of active context on the fly, and it sends warning messages if you are not loading which is existing and not in the file, and existing in file and not declared in the job. So you can easily identify them, and you can also categorize them to be error or warning or something like that. So basically it is used to load the values for the context defined in the job from an external file. So discuss the difference between XMX and XMS parameters. So most of us, whenever the job is failing or heap space memory is coming, we'll first go into the advanced settings of the run window, and we'll see what is the parameters you are giving. So usually it will be default 256 MB, which is allocated for your program. So basically XMX and they are the minimum and maximum space which your job can occupy. So when you are dealing with high huge data, then you'll have to increase your XMS values. So basically it's a heap size. So XMS is the parameter used to specify the initial heap space, and XMS is the maximum heap space. So what is the use of expression editor in Talend? So quite straightforward questions. So you can tell whatever expression you want to, either you want to put it as a filter condition, you want to calculate something, everything you can do it in your expression editor. So basically, var or output constant statements can be, easily viewed and edited. And it comes with a dedicated view for writing any function. Whenever you open an external, your expression window, it opens up a separate window with all the variables listed down, all the functions listed down, where you can choose from them. So necessary expressions are needed to a data transformation can be directly written. You can choose it from the existing one, or you can write your routine and call the routine inside your expression builder as well. So you can put down all possible reasons or the functions which you can do it in your expression editor. So explain error handling in error handling and exception handling. These are the common questions in any of your interview. So basically you can either tell about the components, or you can explain about the categories. Okay, what are the different ways you can do it? So one is like exception throwing process in Open Studio, or you can do it by triggers, by on job okay, on error you can put down some, you can handle some errors, and by defining the error handling subjobs, you can define one reusable job where you can capture all the logs, use TDI T1 and capture all the logs and put it into your generic logging table or a file. So three ways, that is exception throwing process in Talend Open Studio, and you can use components which can capture your exceptions. So for second one is on subjob okay and error component, on a component error and okay. So you can use the T1 TDI and your T-log catches you can use, and you can merge the outputs of all of them and have a dedicated log or error handling recordings. Okay. So one more famous question is they'll first ask you what is tjava, and then they'll ask you what is tjava row, and ultimately they'll tell you compare all these things. So you can tell like tjava is independent component, does not need any input, but tjava rows needs an input, and even tjava flex needs an input. And tjava flex has three different begin, main, initialization, and finally blocks. So all these basic things you can do, and hope we cannot put down this tabular column and tell in the interview, but then which are the things you will have to mention. So it can be used to integrate custom Java code. All of the three components will help you doing that to integrate the Java code. So will be executed only once at the beginning of the subjob. So tjava and tjava row and flex can be used multiple times. Needs input flow. Tjava doesn't need. Java row needs it, and tjava flex is not needed. So needs output flow. Tjava does not need. Tjava row and flex should definitely need it, and can be used as a first component of the job. Yes for tjava, again no for tjava row and flex because it needs an input. Right? Can be used as a different subjob. Yes for tjava, and no for tjava row, but yes for tflex. So allows main flow or iterator flow. Java tjava will accept both. Row will accept only main. Flex will accept both of it. And three parts as I mentioned. only Flex has it and other two doesn't have, and can auto propagate the data. No for tjava and tjava row, but Flex will auto propagate the data, right? So these are the points which you can mention, but go on with the major ones first. So the next question is, how can you execute a Talend job remotely? Again, it relates to one more question. Like when we talked about scheduling, we told first we have to export the job and get the executables, and then it can be executed anywhere. So you can execute the Talend job remotely from a command line. You need to do is to export the job and get the dependencies and get that .bat file or .jar file or .sh file to execute the Talend job, right? So the next question is, can you exclude headers and footers from input files before loading the data? So obviously you can do it in different ways, and what is your way of doing it? The headers and footers can be excluded easily before loading the data from input files. You can give the different number for a header and footer value, and you can do that, or you can filter out based on some delimiter or which is present in headers and not in the data. Anything can be possible. So explain the process of resolving heap space issue. Already we saw XMS and XMS, which is initial heap space and maximum heap space. So even providing after that, we will not know how to manage it or how to resolve it. So few things which we would like to put down for heap space issue are like this. So heap space issue occurs when JVM tries to add more data into heap space than the space available. To resolve this issue, you need to modify the memory allocated to your Talend Studio, and make sure when you are doing it in server, one job is running and taking some memory, and you try to trigger one more job, it takes some memory and the first job will not get the memory which is required. It slows down and next it will fail. So then you have to modify the relevant INI configuration file for the XMS and XMS values. So with all these, and even using the GC overhead standard variables to automatically set the maximum heap space, you can use that variable as well. So the next question is, what is the purpose of TXML map component? As you know, we have already explained about Tmap. So TXML map is explicitly designed for XML input, and we can change the format of it. This component transforms and routes the data from single or multiple sources to a single or multiple destinations, just like Tmap. It is an advanced component which is sculptured for transforming and routing XML data flow, especially needed to process numerous XML data sources. So you can quote down these reasons for TXML map component. So these are the few basic questions or most commonly asked questions for data integration. Now let us also quickly see what are the basic questions in big data. So the first question in big data is, differentiate between TOS for DI and TOS for big data. Most of us will know, like, why do we have different downloadables for that? What is that not present in TOS and which is there in big data and not there in integration? First thing is, all the big data components, as you are aware of, that will not contain any of your big data components. And then big data will have all these Hortonworks related thing, all big data, whatever related thing is there. Those jazz, all those stuff will also be downloaded when you download this TOS. So let's see technically, Talend Open Studio for big data is a superset. So when you download big data, it is as good as downloading DI plus big data. So it contains all the functionalities provided by TOS for DI, along with some additional functions like support for big data technologies. So that is the major difference. So TOS for DI generates only Java codes, whereas TOS for big data generates MapReduce code along with the Java codes as well, right? That is a major difference. One is all the components of big data is available here, and that is a superset. So these two will surely, that is a major difference between TOS and TOS for big data. So what are the various big data technologies supported by Talend? So most of the big data's leaders, like Cassandra, HBase, MongoDB, HDFS, Hadoop, Hive, Pig, Couchbase, DB, everything, Google Storage, you name it, and Talend has a connector for it. So as I said, yeah, Cassandra, Apache HSpace, Pig, CouchDB, Hadoop, HDFS, MongoDB, NoSQL related, Google Storage, Hive, and Spoof. All these big data technologies are supported by Talend. So how can you run multiple jobs in parallel within Talend? Again, when it comes to parallel things, you will have to first ask them whether you are talking about open source or you're talking about enterprise version. So as Talend is a code generator, various jobs and subjobs in multiple threads can be executed to reduce the runtime. Basically, we have multi-threading which is available in open source, and T-parallels component is only available in enterprise version, and automatic parallelization that is also available only in your enterprise version. But you can export your jobs in open source and run them in multiple instances if they don't have any dependencies whenever they are run in parallel. Even that way, parallelism can be achieved. So one of the major thing which is asked in big data is your parallel execution, right? So what are the mandatory configurations needed in order to connect to HDFS? So all of you know that we have hot and work support. We also have the manual setup of HDFS support also in Talend. So basically, the name node related, the resource related are very mandatory for HDFS connection. So distribution, what is the distribution? Whether it is a custom distribution or any hot and works, name node URI and the username. All these things are mandatory for HDFS connections. So this is one thing where they will try to understand whether you know the which component will work with minimal configurations. What is that you have to mandatorily give all those stuff. So which service is needed for coordinating transactions between Talend Studio and HBase? So whenever you're using HBase, the transactions coordinating is usually done by Apache Zookeeper. So technically, let's see this. So Apache Zookeeper is an open source software project of the Apache Software Foundation. It provides centralized infrastructure and services that enable synchronization across the Hadoop cluster. So whatever which is related in the Hadoop cluster, everything coordination of transaction is done by Zookeeper. So the next question is, what is the name of the language used for pig scripting? So all of us know that it is Latin scripts. Pig Latin script is what we call them. So Latin pig is a high-level platform which is used for creating programs that run on Apache Hadoop. It is simple SQL-like scripting and is complete. So you can do all required data manipulation in Apache Hadoop with pig, right? So when do you use Kafka create topic? Again, Talend also supports Kafka. So first you need to, whenever you want to create topic, we have to use create topic component, and then the component creates a Kafka topic. So all other Kafka related components can use that. So until unless you know what is Kafka, what is Kafka topics, you will not understand these questions as such. So even Kafka is included in the Talend training, which is provided by Edureka. So complete one use case is taken on Kafka and we have executed that. So let's see the technicality of it. So used to create a new Kafka topic. This component creates a Kafka topic which is other Kafka components can also use. It allows you to visually generate the command to create a topic which various properties at topic level. So once you understand what is topic only, you'll understand the answer for this question. So try to go through this. We already released few of the topic course contents of the new syllabus for Talend training. So go through it if you are want to understand all these topics. Surely you can take the training under Edureka. So the next question is, explain the purpose of tpigload component. Obviously, as the name itself suggests, so this component helps in loading the data into the pig stream, the single transaction. Usually, if you know Talend, row by row transaction will happen, like the row type, main, iterate, and all. We saw that, right? So, but pig load is like whatever amount of rows are there, it will be done in one transaction. So this component helps in loading the original input data to an output stream in just one single transaction. It sets up a connection to the data source for the current transaction. So tpigload is basically to the load data in a single transaction. So which component do you need in order to automatically close a Hive connection as soon as the main job finishes? So obviously we know, like, we have components like t pre-job and t post-job. Once all the component has been finished the execution, the next component which is triggered is the post job. So we can attach close connection for Hive to post job and we can come up with a solution for this question. So use t post job and Hive close connection, which will automatically close your connection once your job is completed, right? So these are few questions which we thought which will really help you to attend interview or boost your confidence. All these questions and the use cases, technicalities involved are detailedly dealt in the training in Edureka, the Talend Big Data training, which even involves Hadoop, Hive, Pig, Kafka. So all this stuff, along with the detailed explanation of all the DI features of Talend. So all the first 20 hours, close to 20 hours of classes will be based on Talend DI, and the 10 hours are dedicated to big data, covering all the major big data connections and use cases. So that will be really helpful for you to take over your career in Talend. So go through the course contents and schedules and demo videos and get to know about it. And if you like it, surely enroll to the classes, and I'll be teaching you all of these topics related to Talend in detail. Thank you for watching this video. Keep following us.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!